This is a celebratory video because I have to make one of my kilts smaller. I've been losing weight for some years now. I've lost about 40 kilograms and 20 centimeters in girth, so I have to make my kilts smaller. I'm going to let you have a look at what I'm doing today, and also this will give you a little bit of insight into the construction of a modern and not very traditional kilt. Okay, this is the kilt I'm talking about. It's made from a polyester viscose tartan from Martin Mills. The tartan is called cairn, like the burial mound, and it's a fashion tartan. It has no clan connections whatsoever. On it I've got a kilt pin from X Marks the Scot. This is the back side of the kilt, and I will have to lose 5 pleats. I'm going to start with this tool because I have a lot of stitching to undo now. As you can see here on the back side, the kilt isn't lined. It's just the waistband that goes down a little further and is fixed here with a line of stitching. I will first have to open up the waistband at least 20 centimeters over the point where I want to change the kilt. The pleats of a kilt are stitched together about 1/3 of the whole length. So now I've taken out the stitches on the pleats next to the under apron and the inverted pleat that goes under the under apron. I haven't bothered to take out the stitching on the other side of the under apron because I will have to cut off a lot of material that is now too much. As you can see, there's a whole lot of length in the pleats. I will now have to iron it, and then I will lay the new pleats and first fix them with needles. As you can see, this is the seam where in one of the first alterations to the kilt I have added 2 lengths of tartan to each other. If I go according to the plan I had and just cut off the end, this seam will be rather visible on the under apron. Of course, it will be hidden because the under apron is usually hidden behind the upper apron, but I will know that it's there. So I'll alter my plan. I will not just cut off the end, I will take out a piece of material and then hide the new seam in the last pleat. Cutting out anything from the tartan material is always dangerous, but it will have to be. But then, on the other hand, this means that I can use the old under apron just as it is and just add it to the rest of the kilt that I've shortened. My wife's sewing machine has a rather cool foot which allows me to sew and to cut off the excess at the same time, rather like an overlock machine, but without me having to put up the overlock right now. Okay, this is the new seam. joining the main part of the kilt with the under apron. It's not perfect, but anyway it will be hidden in the pleat. Getting the lines that cross the back of the kilt carefully aligned is very important, because nothing, at least nearly nothing, looks more terrible than a kilt with steps. So I take great care to do this very diligently. Okay, now the body of the kilt is finished, has its new proportions. Now the last thing I will do is to stitch on the top band again. Sometimes there's rather a large bulk of material in the machine. This makes it a little bit difficult to work, but then I have some practice, so it can be done. So, there it is, the old kilt adapted to fit the new me. Just a few hours of work, and I hope I will be doing this again in not too far future. Okay, so I'm going to show off some of my kilts. This is the one that I made in 2004. My very first. It's machine stitched, as all others I will show you are also. It's a very thick wool, has no tartan or anything, and it doesn't fit me very well anymore because I've lost a lot of. Then I made this one. This is made out of a suit material, a very thin wool, and on the back you can see it is pleated in a different style. These are box pleats which don't only open in one direction as the knife pleats of a modern kilt, but as you can see here, they open in both directions. This is a very traditional style of pleating a kilt. It has had a renaissance in the last years due to some, especially American kilt makers, having rediscovered it. It has only half the material as a knife pleated kilt has. This here is the same material in knife pleats, and so with only half the wool in it, it is a delight to wear in summertime. You can see that I store my kilts with these hangers. This is a rather special material. It's a so-called shadow tartan. The whole kilt is black in black, and it's only the weaving that gives this tartan effect. All my kilts have a fringe on the outer side of the front apron, and I usually wear a kilt pin on my kilt. This is something I like. It has no real function. This one here is made out of bone. It's a Norse clothes pin that I adapted as a kilt pin by adding 2 pins on the backside. With this black kilt, the shadow tartan, I can show you that my kilts have a lining at the top. It is loose under the aprons and it is fixed on the pleats. As this is a wool kilt, I have added a lining which covers the whole under apron on the inside, so it will not itch that much. Then some more tartan kilts. This one here, a knife pleated kilt in the Campbell of Cawdor tartan. It has a very special kilt pin which is related to my job. I wonder if anybody can tell me what this is. And then there's this one. The tartan is named after an internet forum that I'm a member of. It is the X marks the Scot tartan. It has a rather nice pewter thistle kilt pin. And this kilt shows you what happens if you don't measure twice and thrice. I have a very wide waistband at the top because I measured the kilt too short, and I had to add about, 2.5 inches of waistband at the top. So this means I have to wear a very wide kilt belt over it to hide this mistake I made. This too is a knife pleated kilt, rather heavy, but it has a wonderful swing when I wear it when I dance. And last but not least, I want to show you this kilt. As you can see, I wasn't that good at the time. It has these dreadful and dreaded steps. You can see them here in the white lines, and especially with lines like these with a rather extreme contrast, they don't look too good. Officially this tartan is called the warrior tartan. It's a trade tartan. That means that the mill designed it and there are no clan or local connections to it. I call it my Warrior for Christ tartan, having the purple of the Passion, the black of death, and the whole is overlaid with the white of the resurrection. But then especially feminists rather stare at it because I dare to steal their colors. With my kilts I wear sporrans. That is the name of the traditional pouches worn with kilts, as kilts have no pockets, at least traditional kilts. This is a sporran, a very modern design made in the United States. It's called a cargo sporran. It has a big zippered pocket and two little pockets in front. But even though it is very modern, it has still retained the tasseled look of a more traditional sporran. This one and the nylon one are the ones I usually wear casually and day to day. Then I have this sporran, made in Germany. Not as much room in there, but a little bit more formal. Of course, this still is a daywear sporran, but it is the most formal one I have. In black leather, with 3 tassels. I rather like this one with a Celtic knotwork cross in black and brown. This makes it very versatile. Not big, but nicely made. Special to me because this one comes all the way from Australia. This was my very first sporran. It is a so-called Freelander because the maker of these sporrans goes by the name of Freelander on one of our kilt forums. This is a traditional style sporran. It's called the Rob Roy style, in black and green. Yeah, this was the first one I ever bought, and it is still one of my favorites. But of course, one Freelander sporran isn't enough, because sometimes it has to be brown. So I have this one as a second, with a pewter button in front depicting the Midgard worm. The maker of these beautiful sporrans, David, lives in Norway. So I believe this is real multicultural. A Norwegian sporran maker making Scottish style sporrans, and they are being worn all over the world. This one by a German. Traditionally, a knife is worn in the sock. This is a small knife I made for that purpose as a ski-and-do. It has a rather modern design, inspired by Finnish knife design, with a cocobolo handle and buffalo horn. One of the first knives I made myself. And of course it's sharp, because I don't wear knives that one can't use. But one can't always wear a knife, so I also have this one little beauty. Another one I made myself with a teak handle. In the kilted world we call this a ski-and-don't, because this is a ski-and-do. But of course it's also known under the nom de guerre of ski-and-brew. This is for all the occasions where I like to have something that isn't sharp, and for all occasions where I'm heading for a beer. This is one of my favorite kilt pins. At the moment it has to rest a little bit, but I'll beam it onto one of my new kilts when they're done. And lastly, this too is a kilt pin. It can be attached to my front apron for all occasions where I need this kind of tool. Okay folks, that was a kilted edition of Hermanninator's Life and Pipes, even though there were no pipes this time. I had several hours working on my kilt. In between I had a lot of hours working at our retirement home, because today we had an external quality check. The first time this special kind of quality audit was done, so it was rather exciting, and it came as a great surprise, because actually I am still in my holidays. But our chief secretary came and picked me up this morning. After they couldn't reach me per telephone, she stood in front of my door, so there was nothing else to be done but join them for the fun. Although fun perhaps doesn't describe it correctly. It was rather exciting. It was very, very intense, and I think we passed this audit rather well. So that's it for this time. See you again the next time. Perhaps I'll have a pipe again. Bye.